Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perticchese, and thank you for joining me. As always, our summer scouting continues as we look forward to the upcoming college football season and start discussing the 2025 NFL Draft and the 2025 NFL Draft eligible prospects. If you missed the last episode, I went through and shared my top 18 quarterback rankings entering the 2024 college football season for the 2025 NFL Draft. Today, we're going to discuss the tight end position, and then the summer scouting will be up next, will be the wide receivers and the running backs. Just so many of those to get through. Needed a little bit more time to finish up the wide receivers and the running backs, but quarterbacks all done, tight ends all done. So those is where we started. Again, this is initial baseline, what's available for me to watch. This is just a tipping point and a starting point for what will be a long journey all the way to next April in terms of finalizing my thoughts and my rankings. But these are the basis of the initial 2025 scouting notebook, which the new notebooks will be released in a couple weeks close to Labor Day. So let's first jump right in and just share my rankings. And then again, when I start doing the scouting reports, I'll screen share and you could follow along if you're watching on YouTube, my scouting reports as well. But first, overall thoughts on the tight end class. I think it's a really interesting class. I don't think it's going to be the level of what we saw 2 years ago with Kincaid, Laporta, Mayer, Musgrave, like 4 of them in the top 50 picks. I don't think that's the case, but I think it's a very strong class relative to what we just saw. We don't have a Brock Bowers, but I think after that, this class has the potential to have a whole bunch of prospects. We could have one round one guy, but I think we have a whole lot of guys who are going to be intriguing day 2 prospects. And we have guys in all different shapes and sizes. We have those like pass catching prototypes who are going to be those move tight ends. We have some guys who can line up in line. So it's going to be a really unique class to kind of follow over the next year and watch the progression and development of this position. So I'm going to go through 1 through 13, my ranks here, and then we will get into the scouting reports. So first up, my number 1 ranked tight end for the 2025 class is Colston Loveland out of Michigan. My number 2 is Jake Briningstool out of Clemson. My number 3 is Oscar Delp out of Georgia. Number 4 is Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Number 5 is Mason Taylor out of LSU. Number 6 is Bryson Nesbit out of North Carolina. Number 7 is Luke Lachey out of Iowa. Number 8 is Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame. Number 9 is Caden Prieskorn out of Ole Miss. Number 10 is Terrance Ferguson out of Oregon. Number 11 is Benjamin Yurosek out of Georgia. And then 2 guys who were in last year's scouting notebook who I still believe in their talent, but there's obviously question marks. Number 12 is Oronde Gadsden II out of Syracuse, and still hovering there in college. 13 is Brant Kuithe out of Utah. So those are my ranks. When I look at it right now, I think Loveland kind of sits alone in his own tier as the guy who could be a potential round 1 prospect. I think Briningstool, Delp, Warren, Taylor, Nesbit are all guys that I think are in that day 2 mix. I think Lachey and Mitchell Evans are on that like round 3, round 4 draft projection right now. And then Prieskorn and Ferguson, Yurosek are more day 3 guys for me. And then we'll see about Gadsden and Kuithe, who both profile as receivers, have had injury concerns. Kuithe's been in college a long time. So those are 2 guys there that kind of round out my rankings. So there it is, my top 13 tight end prospects for the 2025 NFL Draft from now. Let me just screen share the scouting notebook. So as I am going through these, you guys can follow along. So let's start. We'll go in order. My first ranked tight end was Colston Loveland. So let's talk about him. And then we will go from there. So Colston Loveland. out of Michigan. He's a junior, 6'5", 245 pounds. Last year, 45 receptions, 649 yards, and 4 touchdowns. A lot to like about his game. He's got great size. I think the frame is just average. I kind of expect him to get that up to the 250 range. Very good athleticism, speed, movement skills, and separation quickness. He can win at all 3 levels of the field. He has great length and catch radius. He's got very good body control, ball skills, and hands. He can attack the middle of the seam. He can get vertical. Things that I want to see him kind of improve this year. I think there's some inconsistent play strength. I think that kind of goes into the frame aspect of it as well in terms of holding the point of attack and run blocking. I'd like to see him be a little bit more functional in those areas as well. I think his route running is average. I think he shows good willingness and he's a pretty good blocker in space, but those are probably average. He can still continue to hone in on that and improve that. Same thing in pass protection. I think he's a starting tight end capable of playing inline as a wide tight end, but probably his best as a move or flex tight end as a more of a receiving threat. I think he's got a round 1, round 2 grade and immediately can step in and be a starter at the next level. So that is Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Let's go to my number 2 tight end, and that is Jake Briningstool out of Clemson, the senior. 6'6", 230 pounds. So that 230 pounds obviously kind of jumps out at you right there, especially at 6'6". But last year, 50 receptions, 498 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Great size, thin frame. He needs to add weight to that. He's got to get that up to at least 244, 245 by the time he enters the NFL draft. And I think he could still keep the explosiveness, the athleticism, the speed. He's got plenty of size to work with at 6'6" to maintain that if he adds some weight to that frame. Very good athleticism, speed, movement skills, separation quickness. Love the yak ability. He really can hit his stride once he gets going after the catch. Very good receiving skills, good route running. He shows release ability. He's got good hands, really good body control and ball skills. He shows the ability to adjust. He's got obviously great length and catch radius to go up and get a high point to football, can attack the seam and get vertical. Obviously, things that we need to see development. He's got to add to that frame. He's got to show the ability to be at least be a functional blocker and be able to do some tight end stuff at the next level. So the play strength, the power to sustain and drive defenders, to hold the point of attack. Right now, he can't play in line at the NFL level. If he can get up to 245, maybe he can play in line a little bit. We've seen guys like Evan Ingram and stuff like that play in line a little bit, even if that's not their calling card. Dalton Kincaid, not his calling card, but he's at least got the weight and the frame to play a little bit there. Right now, Briningstool does not even have that as a possibility. So that's something that he needs that. Right now, though, when you see him in space, he's a decent blocker in space. And he's got decent blocking techniques. The problem is that frame, especially the next level in the NFL, is going to hinder what he's able to do and bring to an NFL team as a blocker. So that's the big thing this year. Can we see during the season? Most likely not even during the season so much, more in the pre-draft process. I think NFL teams are going to want to see him get that number into the mid 240s so they feel like if he's that and he's at least a willing blocker and has good blocking techniques, he could at least be serviceable in that regard. And then obviously teams think they could use him and deploy him a little bit more with more variety than just be straight like a big slot. I think that will aid his draft stock. I have a day 2 grade on him. My NFL role fit complementary to starting pass catch and tight end as the move or flex tight end. So he's going to be that F tight end at the next level. But even as those F tight ends, you still want to be able to hold the point of attack and play in line at times. That's not going to be his calling card, not going to be his bread and butter, but teams are going to at least want it to be some at a time. So I think that's how I view him right now. Next up, Oscar Delp out of Georgia. Obviously been playing behind Brock Bowers. Now what we've seen has been very impressive. I think he's ready to take the next step and emerge as maybe even the second best tight end in this class. He's a junior out of Georgia, Oscar Delp, 6'5", 245 pounds. In limited opportunity last year, he had 24 receptions for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. Great size, average frame, similar to Loveland. I would love to see him add a little bit of weight there, get into the 250s. Very good athleticism, speed, movement skills, separation, quickness, and yak ability. He's got great length and catch radius. He's shown body control. He's shown the ability to adjust. He's got good hands. He can attack the seam and get vertical. For him, things we want to be able to see some there this year as he's thrust into a much bigger role. I want to see more route refinement, more understanding of route concepts. I want to see him expand his route tree a little bit. I want to see, can he hold up in line a little bit more in terms of holding the point of attack and run blocking? Similar to what we've said, he's a better blocker in space. He's better in pass pro. He's a willing blocker. That's not surprising based on his size and frame. But can he hold up a little bit more in line? Can he show more consistent power, that he will need at the next level? I think we'll get a good opportunity to see that this year once he's thrust into, a more every down type of role. I look at him right now. I think he's a complementary to starting tight end that can play inline at the wide position, but is best as a move or flex tight end. He did play in line when him and Bowers were on the field together. It was mostly Delp that was inside. So we have seen him. I just think that's not his bread and butter spot and not his most ideal spot. But if he can show that he could gain 5-10 pounds, it might be an opportunity for him to be a more complete tight end. But even if not, I think he's still got the capabilities to be a starting tight end, best as a move or flex position, but potentially in line if he can gain about 10 pounds to add to that frame. I think he's going to go on day 2. I think his skill set is intriguing. We've seen teams be willing to make the move for day 2 tight ends. I think Oscar Delp is better than every prospect that came out last year, but his former teammate Brock Bowers. I think he's going to be regarded more highly than Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, those prospects from last year. So I'm excited to kind of see him in a much bigger role this year. Let's go to my 4th ranked tight end, and that is Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I just mentioned his former teammate, Theo Johnson. Now Tyler Warren gets to stand up and be the main tight end prospect. Obviously, last year, Warren could have came out with Theo Johnson. I think if he did, he would have potentially been a top 100 pick, maybe taken very similar draft position of where his teammate went. But let's talk about Tyler Warren a little bit. Out of Penn State, senior, 6'6", 255 pounds. Last year in a bad Penn State offense, let's just not beat around the bush. He had 34 receptions, 422 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's got great size and frame. First guy with a combination of them. He's got good athleticism, movement skills, separation quickness, route running, and yak ability for a man his size. 255-pound guys, 6'6", do not usually show this type of athleticism and movement skills that Warren does. He's got very good play strength, toughness, physicality. You see it in his blocking, creating space at the catch point. He's got good length, ball skills, and body control. His far and away right now area where he needs to clean up is inconsistent hands, a lot of bad drops. That is the one thing that when he gets his opportunities to attack the seam, make a big play, there's some bad drops on his film from last year. He's got to clean them up. I think his blocking is good. I think his techniques are probably average. I think he can clean them up a little bit as well. But if he can clean up the drops and the hands, don't become an issue. We're talking about a guy who could emerge in this class, could be tight end 2 in this class, I think. I think he profiled as a starting inline tight end at the wide position, day 2 prospect. I think he goes higher than his former teammate, Theo Johnson. They think there's a little bit more already on film. Theo Johnson was a little bit of a projection. I think there's more production from Tyler Warren. There's more completeness of a player in terms of his blocking ability and his athleticism at his size and pass catching that we've already seen. And I think Warren will take a big step this year. I expect him to be an integral part of that Penn State offense. Next up, let's take this to my number 5 tight end, and that is Mason Taylor out of LSU. He's the 6'5", 244-pound junior. Last year for LSU, he had 36 receptions, 348 yards, and 1 touchdown. Great size. Frame is average, similar to what I said about Delp, similar to what I said about Loveland. I'd love to see him add, 6 to 10 pounds, get in that 250 range, 255 range. I think that would be his peak size for the NFL level. He's got good athleticism, speed, love the movement skills. He shows ability to make things happen after the catch with his yak ability. He's got good body control. He's got length and catch radius. He's got ball skills. He shows the ability to high point and adjust to the football. He's got a lot of versatility. He lined up almost 50% of the time in line at the Y position, 50% of the time detached as that move or flex F tight end. I do think he's got the blocking skills to hold up in line, but also has the receiving skills to be a factor there. I look at him. I'd like to see more red zone production this year. Again, might partially could be opportunity, but I'd like to see him be a little bit more of a impact in the red zone. I want to see him expand his route tree and show better understanding of route concepts, refine that route running and attacking the seam. But he's a good blocker. Like I said, I think he has the potential to be a guy starting tight end as an inline if he could add a little bit more to his frame. But even if he can't, I think he could also be a starting detached tight end as a mover, flex tight end, that F position. I think the athleticism and the receiving skills are good enough. And I just think he needed the opportunity to kind of emerge into a more complete player. And I think this year we're going to see him without Malik Neighbors there, without, Brian Thomas there. I think more of the offense, while obviously they have great players to replace those guys, they always do at LSU. I think more of the offense will naturally flow through Mason Taylor this year at times. So we might see an opportunity for that production to even improve this year as well. Another guy I think penciled for day 2 right now, arrow pointing straight up. Next up, one of the more polarizing tight end prospects in this class, and that is Bryson Nesbit out of North Carolina. He's a senior, though he was going to come out last year when Drake May declared. But the 6'5", 226-pound tight end and that 226 is what right off the bat intriguing. I'm actually going to start there. The thing that we need to see out of Nesbit over the course of this year and then the pre-draft process is he's got to add to that frame. If he's going to be looked at as a tight end at the next level, he's got to get into the minimum, even as a pass catching tight end at the next level. He's probably got to get into the mid 230s, but I think he's probably got to get to 240. And if he's really 226 right now, and that's coming from, I believe, a couple different sources that are out there that are pretty good, like Dane Brugler usually does a great job in terms of verifying heights and weights because he's got a lot of connections. So that's where I got that measurement from. 226, he's got to get that closer to 240 to even be a legitimate tight end at the next level. So obviously the frame needs to get bigger. His overall blocking is something. While he gives good effort, he gives decent effort. He's just, the frame minimizes what he's capable of doing. He's not a guy who can play inline at all right now. He's not a guy who's going to help out much in blocking. His power concerns, his play strength concerns, holding the point of attack concerns. But he's got great size, very good athleticism, movement skills and speed to attack the seam. He can get vertical. He can pick up yak after the catch consistently. He's got separation ability and route running ability. He's got a very good catch radius. He shows length, hands, ball skills, and body control with the ability to high point and adjust. To me, his profile of what he's going to be at the next level is a complementary to pass catching tight end that could emerge as a starter, but needs to add that frame. Obviously, he's going to be a detached move tight end at that F position as a flex tight end. I'd have a round 3, round 4 grade on him right now. I think if he can get into the 240 range, I think he's going to go day 2. I just think the athleticism and the pass catching ability is too intriguing. But if he struggles to get that weight up and can keep the athleticism where it is, then I think he could fall to day 3 because teams are just overly concerned that even as a move tight end, what are we talking about? If he's still 226 or 230, is he just a big slot? And then is there better options as a big slot? I think that's where teams wrestle with that decisions when it's a wide receiver body in a tight end name and a tight end, profile. So that's the thing with Nesbit. I want to see that this year, hopefully some more improvement in blocking, but just overall, we're not going to really know until the Senior Bowl probably, and then the combine where his weight's at. But hopefully, it's something that he's harping on and understanding that for his value at the next level, that number's got to come up a little bit because I do think he's a prolific pass catcher who could be a real weapon at the next level. Let's take this to my number 7 tight end, and that is Luke Lachey out of Iowa, he's a guy who last year I was very high on, got injured. So it's going to be one of the things that's going to be interesting to kind of see how he plays out. I'll get that up if you're watching on YouTube 1 second. How he comes back from that injury. I feel like we've been talking about him for a while. So let me bring up his profile, get into it. Obviously, he only played 2 games last year, so most of his profile is exactly the same as last year. Luke Lachey, senior out of Iowa, 6'6", 253 pounds. Last year, he only played in 2 games. He had 10 receptions for 131 yards. The year before, he did have 28 receptions for 398 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I base a lot of my film on that 2022 season. And that was also when Sam Laporta was in college. So like he was sharing with the tight end duties with Laporta, and he was still very productive. Things that I like about Lachey: great size, good frame, good athleticism, movement skills, and speed. I think his route running and separation quickness is probably just average. I do like the catch radius. He shows the ability to high point and go up and get the football. He's got good hands. He's got play strength, ball skills, and body control. He creates space at the catch point to win contested catches. I love that about my tight ends. Things I want to see him improve this year. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, show he's fully back, show durability, but he's got to expand his route tree a little bit. He's got to refine some of his blocking techniques. I think his blocking is functional, but I do think there's some technique issues there that can be improved upon and stuff like that. I'd like to see a little bit more diversity, like I said, in the route tree, a little refinement in his overall route running. To me, I think he's a tight end too, with the upside to potentially become a starter, best as an inline guy at the wide position, but he can line up detached. He's got athleticism. His athleticism is good enough, and his receiving skills are good enough that I do think he can line up as a move tight end, but I think his best position is probably at the next level, probably to be inside as an inline wide tight end. Right now, I have an early day for grade on him. That could kind of move in a couple different ways. If he shows he's fully back, I think he could be in that late round 3 mix. If he has some inconsistencies, he's not the player we saw in 2022, then I think he could fall a little bit further into day 3. Next up, Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame. Some people have him higher on their list. Some people have him a little bit lower on their list. The senior Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame. He's 6'5", 266 pounds, 29 receptions, 422 yards, and 1 touchdown. He did tear his ACL during the 2023 season. So I think that's going to be, obviously one of the biggest concerns, how he bounces back from that, how quickly. He's not a guy that had I thought his athleticism was average, separation quickness was average. How does it look coming off of that torn ACL? I think really could speak volumes about where his draft stock goes. I do have some concerns. I didn't see clean releases sometimes off the line of scrimmage, as fluid as you want. Same thing, not a guy who's going to do much after the catch in terms of yak ability. I think his athleticism is, like I said, and route run, separation quickness, movement skills are probably just average. If they are worse than that coming off of the torn ACL, I think that's where we maybe potentially get into hurting his draft stock a little bit. But things that I do like about Evans' game and what has me intrigued with him: great size and frame, very good play strength, toughness, physicality. You see it in his blocking. You see it in his ability to create space to win contested catches at the catch point. He's got good body control, ball skills. He shows really good hands. He's got length. He's got catch radius. He's a good blocker. He's got the ability to high point and use that body and size, like I said, to create space to win catches in tight coverages. I think he's a tight end too, with the upside to become a starter as an inline tight end. I do have his grade right now in that round 3, round 4 border. So I think Evans right now is that guy, a little bit intriguing, similar to Luke Lachey, who I did put as an early day 3 grade, more because I think there's still some concerns that I want to see. Mitchell Evans, obviously, same concerns with the injury, so it could go either way. Those two guys in the same tier for me right now. Next up, let's go to my number 9 tight end. And that's a guy who I kind of liked a lot last year when I watched him. And then even throughout the season, he was an integral part of the Ole Miss offense. And that is Caden Prieskorn out of Ole Miss. He's a senior. He's 6'5", 258 pounds. Great size and frame, above average athleticism and movement skills, average speed and separation quickness, good ball skills, hands, body control, and length with the ability to adjust, good play strength and physicality to create space at the catch point, above average blocking skills. To me, he's a tight end too, with receiving upside, best as an inline tight end. So this is a guy who profiles as an inline tight end, but I'm intrigued by the receiving ability that he offers in that, and that he's an average and he's a functional blocker. Obviously, things that I'd like to see, especially since he is a good receiver, I'd like to see a little bit more variety and a little bit of an expansion of his route tree. I'd like to see his ability to get vertical a little bit in terms of attacking the seam and be more of a big play threat over the middle of the field. And I want to see him refine his route running a little bit. But there are things to like about Prieskorn's game. Obviously he transferred there. He showed he could take the step up in competition, and he really shined last year. Kind of want to see him continue to be an integral part of that Ole Miss offense. My number 10 tight end is Terrance Ferguson out of Oregon. He's a guy who last year really connected well with Bo Nix. The senior out of Oregon, Ferguson is 6'5", 251 pounds, 42 receptions, 414 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That 6 touchdowns jumps out at you. We're talking about a major red zone weapon. He's got great size. Frame is average to good, average athleticism, speed, and movement skills. That's not his calling card. For him, it's the length, the ability to high point, extend, and adjust for the football. That's his calling card. He's got good play strength and physicality. You see that in his blocking, but you also see it in his ability to create space at the catch point. He's got body control and ball skills. I think the blocking is average, but again, he's got that's fine for a college tight end. He's got the size and the frame to hold up blocking, to hold up at the point of attack. I want to see him refine his route running a little bit, expand the route tree a little bit. I do think there's some stiffness in his separation quickness coming out of breaks. I'd like to see a little bit more vertical speed, the ability to attack the seam, refine those blocking techniques a little bit. But he's really good at the catch point. He's really good. He's a really good red zone weapon. There's things to like about Ferguson's game. I have him. I think he's a tight end too, best as a Y or inline tight end. But he's shown enough, and his career in Oregon, he's shown enough that he could also line up detached as an F tight end and be that move tight end. I think the receiving skills are good enough, and the athleticism is average enough that he can survive in that role as well. I have a day per grade on him right now. I think he could move it into the early day per grade range, but right now I kind of see him more as that like 5th round guy for there. Next up, my 11th ranked tight end, and that is Benjamin Yurosek out of Georgia, formerly of Stanford, now has transferred to Georgia. He will play there with Oscar Delp, who I talked about before. Yurosek, senior, out of Georgia, like I said now, 6'4", 243 pounds. Things to like about his game. Last year, he only played six games due to injury. He had 16 catches, 239 yards, and a touchdown. The year before, he had 49 receptions, 445 yards, and a touchdown. I think he's a depth to complementary pass-catching tight end that can line up detached as a move tight end or at the wide position in line if you can gain and add to that frame a little bit. It'd be interesting to kind of see how they deploy him and Oscar Delp. Delp is listed at 245, Yurosek at 243. I think the athleticism favors Delp, but Yurosek is more of the pass catcher only. So it'd be interesting to kind of see if Delp ends up playing more in line like he did with Bowers when they're both on the field. It'd be interesting to kind of see their deployment. I think average size at 6'4", thin frame at 243. I think he's got to add to that a little bit. It doesn't seem like some of the other guys we talked about, like 245, 246. They just seem, so he's got to add to that frame a little bit. I think the athleticism is only average, and that's been my thing with Yurosek, even while he was at Stanford. I think people were higher on him as a pass catching tight end, but I think guys who are like, you look at a guy like, Nesbit, or you look at a guy like Briningstool, or guys I've talked about, like they're pass catchers pretty much exclusively, but they have really good athleticism, like very good, great for the tight end position. I think Yurosek, when I watch Yurosek play, he's a pass catching tight end, but his athleticism to me is only average to above average for the position. Same thing with the movement skills, separation quickness. I do think he's good in terms of his route running. I think he's solid, above average. I think he's got really good body control, shows good hands. He's got ball skills, the ability to adjust and high point the football. But again, I have some concerns. The frame is a concern. The long speed is a concern. You don't see a lot after the catch with him. I don't see a lot of, wiggle in terms of his agility and stuff like that to pick up yards after the catch. I think there's some play strength and blocking concerns. So I'm a little bit lower on Yurosek compared to other people. It'd be interesting to kind of see how he looks in Georgia. But I don't think he's got top end athleticism for a tight end. So, I think when you're a good receiver, but you don't have that top end athleticism, it's going to be hard to translate and be highly regarded. But the move to Georgia, I think, will open up the opportunity for him, and maybe we see him add to that frame a little bit. And then also, see how integrated he is into that offense. I think he's a depth to complementary pass catching tight end, like I talked about, but we'll see how he's deployed this year and where his weight is when he enters the NFL draft next year. I think he's a day 3 grade. My 11 tight end, and he was my 11th. My 12th tight end, Oronde Gadsden, the second. Again, mostly going off of prior stuff because last year he only played in 2 games. He had 76 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. He's the redshirt junior out of Syracuse, 6'5", 225. So we're talking about another guy like Nesbit, 225 pounds. I don't know what NFL teams do with that. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a big slot? They're hoping he could add 10 to 15 pounds onto that frame and be that more traditional move tight end. But to me, he's a depth to complementary pass catching tight end as a move or flex tight end, or he's got to be a big slot wide receiver. That's kind of where he lives. At 225, you're either going to be a big slot, or if you could add 10, 15 pounds, maybe you could be designated as a move tight end. I think right now he's got a day 3 grade on him. Similar to Yurosek in some ways, if you're going to be that move tight end, mostly exclusively, I want to see better athleticism. For Grande, he's got for Oronde Gadsden, he's got great size. The frame is obviously concerned if we're talking about the tight end position. Obviously, if it's a wide receiver position, we're good. He's got average to above average athleticism, speed, route running, separation, quickness. If he's a tight end, if it's a wide receiver, I have athletic concerns. If he's a wide receiver, he would be exclusively a big slot. Can't play on the outside, I don't think. But he does have very good body control, ball skills, length, catch radius, and hands. He shows the ability to high point and adjust to the football. He's a versatile mismatch weapon as a big slot or a move tight end in college if he's detached from the line of scrimmage. So Gadsden's a really interesting player. Going to be interesting to kind of see how Syracuse uses him, how he's designated. Is he designated as a wide receiver? Is he designated as a tight end? Where that weight stays over the next year? If he goes to if he goes to like a Senior Bowl or an All-Star game, because I think he'll be eligible as a redshirt junior. Where does he line up? What does the NFL look at him? I think that's going to carry the weight of him. And then last but not least, my 13th tight end, Brant Kuithe, is a guy who's been in college a long time. But this is a guy that, like, when I watched him years ago, I was really intrigued with the athleticism, but he missed all of 2023 with injury. 2022, he only played in 4 games. Last time he played a full season was 2021, and he had 50 receptions for 611 yards and 6 touchdowns. I mean, he looked like in that 21 season, he had a Dalton Kincaid-like impact. Not as tall as Dalton Kincaid, but he was 6'2", 235 pounds, a redshirt senior, he's been there. I think this is now his 5th or 6th season. He's a depth to complementary pass catching tight end. I thought he reminded me a lot of Kylan Granson. Obviously, was drafted by Indianapolis a couple years ago. I think you play the move or flex tight end position. But where is he after all this time off? Does he have that athleticism that made him an intriguing player? Because while undersized, I did think the athleticism, the movement skills, the separation, quickness, and speed was good to very good. He showed yak ability with the body control hands. To me, he was versatile to be used all over the formation, move tight end. You can put him in the slot a little bit. You can do different things. You can manufacture touches to him like jet sweeps, end the rounds, and screens. I just don't know where he is after all this time that he missed due to injury. What does the athleticism look like? How does the movement skills look like? So to me right now, he's like a late day 3 type thing, if he even gets drafted at all. And it'd be interesting to kind of see how that plays itself out. So there it is, guys. Scouting reports on all of my top 13 tight end prospects in the class. Again, if you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, ssfootball.com. Soon to be released is the new Saturday, Sunday Premium Notebooks. YouTube, you can subscribe to there just as we kind of continue to try to build that up as well. Wherever you listen to your podcast, rate, review, subscribe. We'll greatly appreciate it. We will have 2 more summer scouting series, wide receivers and running backs, to close out our summer scouting to get ready for the upcoming 2024 college football season. Hoping to have a big time guest from the industry also come on in the next 2 weeks to set the stage, share their takes a little bit about some of these prospects, and set the stage for this upcoming college football season as well. So, on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nicano, and myself. Thank you for joining us. I look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.